What would you do if, starting today, the earth plunged into complete darkness for 3 straight days? Was the Bible right about this prophecy? It seems like this possibility is closer than we think, and we're here to explore why the biblical prediction of 3 days of darkness has sparked so much interest and curiosity. People are asking whether this ancient prophecy could be relevant today. This topic goes beyond just remembering the darkness that covered Egypt. It's about understanding a divine warning that might be significant for our world today, especially as things seem more chaotic. Some believe that this prophecy is not just a story, but could be a vision of what's coming. Are we truly ready for something this big? And what would it mean for our future? This video dives into these questions, exploring the possibility that the 3 days of darkness might actually happen soon. We'll look at one of the most famous events in the Bible, the 9th plague of Egypt. This story is found in Exodus chapter 10, verses 21 to 29. It tells about the 9th plague God sent to Egypt to make Pharaoh free the Israelites from slavery. God told Moses to stretch out his hand toward the sky, and this brought a thick darkness over Egypt that could be felt. When Moses obeyed, total darkness covered Egypt for 3 days. During this time, no one could see each other or move, but the Israelites still had light in their homes. But why did God choose darkness as one of the plagues? In the Bible, darkness often symbolizes divine judgment and the withdrawal of God's presence, showing his displeasure. Imagine being in complete darkness. It's confusing, terrifying, and makes you feel helpless, just like the Egyptians must have felt. But this darkness wasn't like a normal night. The Bible describes it as a darkness so thick you could touch it. This supernatural darkness was a sign that something beyond human understanding was happening. But there's more to this story than just a supernatural blackout. This plague was a direct challenge to one of Egypt's most powerful gods, Ra, the sun god. By bringing darkness, God was essentially saying, "Your sun god is powerless against me. I control light and darkness." This wasn't just a show of power. It was a deep theological statement in a culture that believed different gods controlled different parts of nature. The God of Israel was declaring his absolute authority over everything. Interestingly, while Egypt was in darkness, the Israelites had light in their homes. This clear difference showed God's favor towards his chosen people. The contrast between the Egyptians and Israelites is a powerful reminder of God's care, even during times of judgment. It's comforting to think that even in the darkest times, God can bring light to those who trust in him. But why did God make this decision? It wasn't just favoritism. This act was meant to show both Egyptians and Israelites that the God of Israel was different from other gods. He had the power to bring judgment, but also to protect and provide during it. Despite seeing God's power, Pharaoh remained stubborn. He offered to let the Israelites go, but insisted their animals stay. Now, why do you think Pharaoh kept resisting, even after seeing such clear signs of God's power? His stubbornness shows a tragic human tendency, the hardening of our hearts against God's warnings. It's a serious reminder of how pride can blind us to the truth. Even when it's right in front of us, Pharaoh's behavior serves as a warning to all of us. How often, like Pharaoh, do we try to negotiate with God? We might say, "Okay God, I'll do this, but I'm going to keep that." But God doesn't want partial obedience. He wants our whole heart. In contrast to Pharaoh's stubbornness, Moses showed unwavering faith and obedience. He refused to compromise, insisting that not a single hoof be left behind. Moses' strong commitment is an inspiring example of faith in action. He fully trusted in God's plan, even when facing one of the most powerful rulers of his time. But let's be realistic. Standing firm like Moses isn't easy. It takes courage, conviction, and deep trust in God. Moses knew that partial obedience was not true obedience and that God's commands were non-negotiable. Many believe this biblical account is not just a historical event, but also a prophecy that will happen again in the end times. Some saints and mystics throughout history have spoken of a period of darkness that will cover the world. Here's a simplified and rewritten version of your content in US English. So let me ask you this. Could we be on the verge of experiencing our own 3 days of darkness? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But before you dismiss it, consider how similar our current world is to ancient Egypt. Aren't we, in many ways, living in a time of spiritual darkness? Like the Egyptians, haven't we placed our faith in false gods, whether it's money, power, or technology? Look around. The world seems to be growing darker, both morally and spiritually. Even the natural world reflects this with increasing disasters and strange weather patterns. From political chaos to environmental crises, and from moral decline to spiritual indifference, many believe we are nearing a crucial moment in history. But let's dig deeper. What signs might indicate that we are moving toward a time of darkness? Some people point to the rising frequency and severity of natural disasters. Others notice the spread of moral relativism in our societies, while some focus on the persecution of believers in various parts of the world. But what exactly could these 3 days of darkness mean? Some interpretations suggest it could be both literal and spiritual. Some imagine a physical darkness, perhaps caused by a cosmic event or environmental disaster. Others see it as a spiritual darkness, a time of great trial and testing for believers. Now think about it. How would you prepare if you knew a period of intense darkness was coming? This isn't just a hypothetical question. It's a call to spiritual readiness, urging us to strengthen our faith and prepare our hearts for tough times ahead. If it were a physical darkness, how would the world cope? Imagine the chaos if the sun didn't rise for 3 days. But perhaps even more frightening is the idea of spiritual darkness, a time when evil seems to reign and faith is severely tested. The biblical story of the 9th plague in Egypt offers valuable lessons. Just as the Israelites found light in the midst of darkness, believers today are called to be a light in a dark world. This could mean offering hope to the hopeless, standing up for truth in a world full of deception, or simply showing kindness in a harsh environment. What's scary is that the more we resist God, the easier it becomes to keep resisting. One comforting part of this prophecy is the reminder of God's control. Even in the darkest times, He remains in charge. Just as God protected the Israelites during the plague of darkness, He continues to be a refuge for those who trust in Him. This means that no matter how dark our situation gets, we can find comfort in knowing that God is with us. But this raises an important question. How can we prepare for the spiritual and physical challenges that may come? First, we need to strengthen our faith and trust in God at all times. This involves spending time in prayer, studying the Bible, and living by its teachings. We should also strive to be a light for others, helping those who are lost or confused. We don't know what the future holds, but by preparing spiritually and living a life of faith and integrity, we can be ready to face any darkness that comes our way.